Welcome to episode 365 of the Postal Hub podcast. I'm Ian Kerr. Joining me in a moment is Kathy Morrow-Robertson from Logistics Trends and Insights. We're going to talk about UPS, Amazon, the US Postal Service, and FedEx. Joining me on the line is Kathy Morrow-Robertson, founder and principal at Logistics Trends and Insights. Kathy, welcome back. We're going to talk about UPS and some of the announcements that were made recently regarding UPS, Amazon, SurePost, and all that sort of stuff. Let's start with the headline, which was about UPS reducing its... what was it? Slashing Amazon volumes by 50% by the end of, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but they're basically reducing their reliance on Amazon. What is all this about?
Well, okay, so first of all, thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it. It's been a while. Yes, UPS announced that they're going to reduce their Amazon volumes by 50% by June of 2026, and that they had already begun the process. Amazon is UPS's largest customer, and when they represent roughly 11%, I think it's around 11% of their total revenue. Honestly, it gets a little scary when you start depending on one customer such as that. Plus, the volumes are not perhaps the most profitable. A lot of folks know when you work with Amazon, Amazon is a very savvy negotiator when it comes to rates that they pay. They want the lowest, as we all do, of course. And during the earnings call, the most recent UPS earnings call, the CEO of UPS, Carol Tomei, noted that they had recently renegotiated their contract, or they were in the process of renegotiating, somewhere in there. And it was decided at that time, mutually, of course, that the volumes would be reduced. And in all honesty, Amazon has, in fact, been taken in housing more and more of their volumes. And this is just me speaking, but I think they're doing that because they're finding out they have extra capacity and they need to fill that capacity.
And when you talk about having their capacity, we're talking about the DSP network, the Delivery Service Partner Network in particular, aren't we?
The whole 9 yards, that, yes, as well as their airplanes, because they rely a lot on UPS's airplanes as well. So they've got room.
Is this part of UPS's sort of overall strategy to be, what was it, better, not bigger? I think that was the catchphrase that was used at the time. But it also has echoes of what FedEx did as well. They didn't just reduce. Didn't they fire Amazon as a customer or something like that? It was a bit drastic, as I recall. But is this part of this move to have more profitable parcels in the UPS network?
Exactly. If you remember UPS, they still have quite a bit of cost in their network. The biggest cost, of course, is their union workers. And they signed a hefty agreement with the Teamsters a couple of years ago. So, yeah, between that as well as they've been automating a lot of their facilities, building out these super hubs and collapsing some of the smaller ones. So there's a lot of cost in there, and they do have to look for those more profitable packages.
One of the other announcements that came out of this earnings call related to SurePost. And for those of us who are outside the USA, can you describe for us what exactly SurePost is and how it fits in this UPS US Postal Service relationship?
Sure. So SurePost is a hybrid solution between UPS and the US Post Office, whereby UPS handles that first mile, so to speak, and then they hand off the package to the U.S. Post Office for that last mile delivery.
And it's often injected at the delivery office level, isn't it? It's not that it's injected at a regional distribution center. It's actually at the last mile sorting center. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So the Post Office came out effective January 1st that they would end discounts with consolidators, such as UPS, FedEx, DHL e-commerce, OMS, so on and so forth. And as a result, and part of that had to do with this injection, the parcel injection. And so everyone, including UPS, spent this past year negotiating with the post office to come up with the best rate, the best contract to keep SurePost and other solutions going into this year.
Well, I was going to ask you though, SurePost is if they're handing the product over to the USPS, my question is going to be about what's the kind of sort of pricings involved there, and where are those parcels going? If UPS has got its own last mile delivery network and it wants to fill its own delivery trucks, what's it handing over to the USPS? And yeah.
Well, SurePost is a lower priced economy package service. And this is the one that you usually see a lot of retailers embracing just because of the lower cost and such. And from UPS's perspective, this is also handing packages destined to locations out in the rural areas that cost more for UPS to deliver.
So where the USPS has the delivery density, but UPS probably wouldn't. Is that what we're saying here?
More or less, yeah.
More or less. So yeah. How does that then fit in with, if UPS has to insource these parcels now, mm-hmm. or just say no to them, how does that fit in with the more profitable parcels?
Okay, well, they're not going to say no to them for quite a while, because back in mid-December, they announced that they raised the SurePost rates to an average of around 10%. So they've jacked up the price, which really, to be honest, they're not very economical. And so now you've seen other service providers, last mile service providers, jump in with their lower priced services to compete against this, to get those retailers' packages away from UPS.
Who was it who said your margin is my opportunity? Was that Jeff Bezos? Anyway, probably irrelevant to this discussion. Let's change topic here slightly. UPS, we're talking here a lot about B2C e-commerce delivery. Let's talk about B2B delivery, because that's a big part of what UPS does. What are you seeing there with regard to UPS's strategy? And is it trying to have a greater presence, or focusing more on B2B?
Oh, yes, of course. We go back to pre-pandemic years, the balance.
That's hard to remember. What happened before the pandemic? Did life exist?
And I hate bringing that up, pre-pandemic, pandemic, and then post-pandemic. It gets old after a while, but you really do have to take a look at what happened before the pandemic hit, prior to 2020. And this is when you saw UPS and FedEx. When you look at the characteristics of their volumes, it was pretty well split between B2C and B2B, maybe an inch more B2B. And those B2B volumes are more profitable, meaning they don't have to go door to door to door in a neighborhood, delivering a package here or a package there. These B2B moves are usually they're bundled, and it's more cost effective for them. But when the pandemic hit, we all know that whole percentage went topsy-turvy, and the majority were B2C. And it is recovered some since, but it's still more B2C slanted than B2B for both UPS and FedEx. So they're basically now just coming back out going, we want the B2B packages. But the other issue, keeping the B2B volumes lower, is that manufacturing hasn't really recovered a whole lot either from the pandemic. So it's kind of been in the doldrums and such. And that's where UPS and FedEx both have gotten a lot of those B2B to B2B packages. It's a tongue twister there. So now they're both focusing on such sectors as the pharmaceutical and healthcare. That's a big area that UPS has been promoting. Well, FedEx has had a really nice solution as well, over the years. And so they're now beginning to emphasize that. Also doing a lot of international moves and intra-Asia moves as well to support that whole B2B aspect.
When you're talking about B2B, are you talking about parcel-sized consignments? Are we talking about deliveries to a dock, or what size of deliveries are we really talking about? Or all of the above, even?
Both, yeah. No, it's both because, like, if you look at a healthcare package, that could be just one package, but that could be a clinical trial. Something to support a clinical trial. It's a very expensive package to move. Okay, whereas one thing that UPS highlighted in their earnings report was that they're doing more B2B movements within the retail industry, helping with inventory replenishment by using, they're doing a lot with RFID tagging of retail parcels and such. So they're moving packages between warehouses to stores and such. So that's a B2B move.
Yeah, which is in many respects a big contrast to, like you said, delivering to a residential address where there's also no guarantee that someone's going to be home. Another big difference between now and 2020 is that there is a return to the office of some description. Yeah.
Exactly.
For those of us outside the USA, do you have any comments on that return to the office? It seems to be quite a hot button issue. Is it called a hot button issue? A red button issue? A red hot button.
A red hot button issue.
And obviously those of us in the delivery sector are looking at this and saying, well, what's it going to mean for the future of delivery preferences for those B2C deliveries?
Your guess is as good as mine, to be honest with you, because, a lot of the major companies, including the federal government, has ordered, workers to come back to the office and such. So maybe those packages end up getting delivered, once again, to the offices.
So we're going to have that old problem again of people getting their e-commerce purchases delivered to the office. The corporate mailrooms get overwhelmed and grumpy. And and all that's going to kick off again. Just looking forward, then we've talked a bit about how there's going to be this change in the relationship between Amazon and UPS and where those volumes are likely to go. What else have you seen in regard to the last mile sector more generally in the US? How are the regional players, for example, fitting into all this, or even the startups? You mentioned that there are other companies out there who are shaping up to take some of that that volume that UPS might shed from its former SurePost service. What are your observations there?
I think we're seeing more technology playing a role, and you're seeing a lot of these businesses, whether they're retailers, manufacturers, or what have you, taking control of their package volumes by embracing this technology, whether they're purchasing these parcel management tools or they're utilizing a tech provider to utilize this last mile. It's a way of reducing those costs because you and I both know the rates keep going up and up and up. And every time you turn around, you're seeing another either new surcharge or an increase in a particular surcharge. So I think you're seeing more ownership there. But what's interesting is the folks that are doing the last mile themselves, it's the crowdsource workers. And I think that is because, again, they tend to be lower cost and such. So you're seeing more of that going on. And at the same time, you've got retailers such as Target and Walmart expanding their own last mile delivery services and such.
And I think that's a really interesting topic there about Walmart and Target getting more into the last mile, whether it's themselves or via like you just said, a gig delivery platform. Because what's Spark? Is it Walmart Spark?
Yeah, so Walmart Spark is a crowdsource delivery service that Walmart manages through their technology that they utilize. It is crowdsourced, yeah. So they do the last mile deliveries on behalf of Walmart. They also have Walmart Go Local, in which they offer white labeled last mile services to a variety of companies. such as Home Depot.
There's so much happening there. I mean, and again, for those of us who are outside of the USA, we can often forget about the size of some of these retailers. We think about Amazon, but we don't think about the likes of Walmart, or Target, or even, like I said, Home Depot. I say Depot.
That's okay.
For the rest of you. They are big retailers that still have a bigger retail share than Amazon. Still, don't they? I think. Oh, we're not sure. We'll leave that to the comments field underneath this episode on LinkedIn for everybody to join in there. Kathy, if people want to find out more about what you do, or if they want to subscribe to your newsletter, where should they go? You're laughing. I'm plugging somebody else's newsletter on my podcast. Where should they go? How can they find you? How can they find Logistics Trends and Insights?
Well, the best way is probably LinkedIn, but also logisticsti.com. So on LinkedIn, you can sign up for free. There's a LinkedIn newsletter. It's called Freight Forward, and it's a compilation of mostly Journal of Commerce stories, but I throw in others from ocean freight, air freight, trucking, rail, all the way down to the final mile. I also do a Substack. I have dusted that off and am trying to do weekly, if not twice a month, stories, reimagining supply chains. Let's just call it that, because as we know, supply chains keep changing and all. And of course, I'm always around by email. So that's.
I'll stick a link on the episode page on thepostalhub.com to Kathy's LinkedIn profile, to her website, and I don't know, the newsletter, if I can work out how to do that. Kathy Morrow Robertson from Logistics Trends and Insights, thank you very much for joining us on the Postal Hub podcast today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
That's all for this episode of the Postal Hub podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast in your favourite podcast platform so that you get each episode downloaded to the device of your choosing as it is released. Subscribe to the email newsletter. Go to thepostalhub.com, follow the links, and subscribe to my regular weekly newsletter, which has the latest episode included in it. Or if you're really keen on your delivery headlines, you can get the Daily Delivery Digest, which is a daily email covering all the delivery news from around the world. If you want to contact me about anything at all, my email address is ian@thepostalhub.com. I'm Ian Kerr. Thanks for listening in, and I look forward to your company next time on the Postal Hub podcast.